ask you something. How long are you going to wait before you decide that the life you want is non-negotiable? Success doesn't chase people. It responds to who you become. It's not luck. It's not some mystical energy floating around waiting to bump into the right person. No, it's something you earn by transforming your thoughts, your focus, your identity, and your behavior. You want to attract success? Then it starts where nobody is looking. It starts inside you. Because here's the truth. The most successful people in the world didn't wait for perfect timing. They didn't wait until someone gave them permission. They built their internal world so strong, so unshakable, that the outside world eventually caught up. That's the game. Success is attracted to clarity. It doesn't show up when you're confused, scattered, and indecisive. It shows up when you get crystal clear on what you want, and you commit to it like your life depends on it. When you're vague, your results are vague. When you're sharp, decisive, and focused, success starts showing up in ways you can't even predict. Now ask yourself, what's your identity? Because you'll never outperform the story you tell yourself. If deep down you still believe you're not enough, or that you'll fail like before, or that people like you don't win, guess what? That belief will pull you back no matter how hard you hustle. You don't attract success by wanting it. You attract success by becoming the kind of person who expects it, who acts like it's already theirs. And here's something most people miss. Emotion is power. Strategy is important, yes. But if you don't have the energy, the passion, the drive, you won't execute. Your emotional state determines your ability to follow through. When you're in a powerful state, when you're lit up with purpose, everything changes. You speak differently, you walk differently, you command the room, you don't wait, you create. But even that's not enough if your environment contradicts your vision. Look around you. Who are you spending time with? What are you listening to? What's on your calendar? What's in your home, your workspace, your routines? Your environment must reflect the level you want to live at. You can't plant seeds of greatness in a field of weeds. And finally, it all comes down to action. Not busy work, not perfection, but bold, aligned, daily action. Action that says to the universe, I'm serious. Action that's loud, that's uncomfortable, that's courageous. Because when you move toward your goals with full intensity, the world responds. People show up, opportunities appear, doors open that were never even visible before. So if you're still waiting for a sign, for the right mood, for the fear to go away, it won't. You don't wait to feel ready. You move and readiness finds you on the journey. You want to attract success? Then raise your standards. Shift your identity, fuel your body and mind. Create an environment that empowers you and take massive aligned action daily. The future isn't waiting. Success is waiting for the real you to show up. Most people spend their entire lives chasing something outside of themselves. They think if they just get the right job, earn a little more money, or meet the perfect partner, everything will fall into place. But the truth is, success doesn't start out there. It begins inside. It begins with what you tolerate, what you believe, what you focus on when no one else is watching. When you're under attack, you look outside for the real you to show up. Most people spend their whole lives chasing something outside of them. It begins inside. It begins with what you tolerate, what you believe, what you focus on when no one else is watching. Because your outer world is just a mirror reflecting what's happening internally. You can't build a powerful life on top of weak foundations. If your thoughts are filled with self-doubt, fear, and limitation, no amount of external success will ever be sustainable. You'll sabotage it, you'll push it away, you'll feel like you don't deserve it, and you'll act in ways that confirm that story. It's not because you're lazy or broken. It's because your internal blueprint is out of alignment with the outcomes you say you want. That's why transformation begins not with changing your circumstances, but with upgrading your identity. Because if you see yourself as someone who sometimes wins or who tries to be successful, you're already setting the ceiling. You've already defined the limits of what you believe you're capable of. And here's the truth. You will always act in alignment with who you believe you are. Always. You might be motivated for a day or two, You might even take action for a few weeks. But if your subconscious identity says, I'm not enough, or I never follow through, or I'm not one of those successful people, then you will revert back. Not because you're weak, but because your actions will never stay consistent with a vision that contradicts your internal story. That's why the first step in attracting true lasting success isn't doing more, it's becoming more. It's rewriting the story in your head, because that story shapes everything. Your emotions, your choices, your energy, your effort. It's not about affirmations or fake positivity. It's about brutal honesty. It's about looking in the mirror and asking, what am I truly believing about myself right now? And is that belief leading me where I want to go? You can't plant seeds of greatness in soil that's filled with doubt. You've got to clear the weeds. That means doing the inner work, identifying limiting patterns, facing your fears, questioning old narratives that maybe you didn't even choose. Maybe someone handed them to you when you were young. Maybe you've been living out someone else's definition of what's possible for your life. But now it's time to take ownership. Because if you want real success, not the kind that looks good on Instagram, but the kind that feels right in your soul, then you've got to shift your identity from the inside out. You've got to start seeing yourself as someone worthy, someone capable, someone powerful. And it's not about arrogance, it's about alignment. Because the more your identity aligns with the person who achieves those goals, the more natural those goals become. You stop trying so hard, you stop chasing and start attracting. Why? Because you've become the kind of person who naturally produces those outcomes. It's not a fluke, it's a reflection of your internal standard. This is why two people with the same tools, the same strategies, even the same opportunities can produce wildly different results. One has the internal strength to hold success. The other doesn't. And so my point was not that when you think you're a cock, the next time you arrive at a situation, you start the day with a kind of strength. One believes they're built for greatness. The other secretly doubts they're good enough. And in the long run, that difference makes all the difference. So if you're tired of chasing success and coming up short, don't look outside yourself. Look inward. What are you really telling yourself when things get quiet? What are the patterns you've been repeating? And are they serving your vision or sabotaging? If you want to attract better outcomes, you've got to become the version of you who expects them, demands them, and knows how to hold them once they arrive. That means building discipline, emotional control, clarity of vision, and a deep sense of certainty. Not based on your past, but on your decision to grow. You don't wait for success to validate you, you validate yourself. And success responds to that certainty. The inside is the engine. Everything else is a result. You are the cause. Your world is the effect. Start there, and you'll start to see how fast your life can change. Most people drift through life hoping they'll land somewhere meaningful. But hope is not a strategy. You don't attract success by wishing or waiting. You attract it by becoming radically clear on what you want and committing to that vision with unshakable certainty. Clarity is the foundation of power. If you're unclear, you're weak. You hesitate, you second guess. You get pulled in 1,000 directions. But the moment you get specific, truly specific about your outcome, everything begins to shift. Think about this. If you got into a car with no destination in mind, how would you know which turns to make? How would you know when you've arrived? That's how most people live, working hard, burning energy, but going in circles because they've never decided where they're really trying to go. When you lack clarity, the world controls you. Circumstances decide for you. You become reactive instead of proactive. You get busy but not effective. You confuse movement with progress. That's why clarity isn't just nice, it's non-negotiable. Clarity gives direction to your energy. It sharpens your focus. It filters out distractions. When you know exactly what you want, your decisions become easier. You don't waste time debating every little thing. You know what lines and you know what doesn't. And that's when momentum kicks in. Because when your actions line up with a clearly defined purpose, You start moving faster and with greater force. You stop settling for what's available and start pursuing what's intentional. Now let's get real. Most people avoid clarity because it's uncomfortable. The moment you define your goal, now you're responsible for it. Now you have something to measure yourself against. Now you can fail. That's why people stay vague. They say things like, I just want to be happy, or I want to be successful, but they never define what that actually means. And if you can't define it, you can't achieve it. You're not aiming, you're drifting. Clarity also demands honesty. It forces you to confront what really matters to you. Not what your parents told you should matter, not what society celebrates, but what truly lights you up. And sometimes that means letting go of goals you've outgrown. Sometimes it means walking away from a path that looks impressive, but feels empty. Clarity is not always convenient, but it's always empowering. Because once you claim your vision fully and unapologetically, you stop needing validation, you stop asking for permission, you take ownership of your path. The most successful people in the world are not the most talented or the most lucky. They are the most clear. They know exactly where they're going, why it matters, and what they're willing to sacrifice to get there. That's what makes them unstoppable. Because even when obstacles come, and they will, they don't question their direction. They adjust their approach, but they stay locked in on the outcome. That level of clarity creates internal certainty. And when you operate with certainty, people feel it, they trust you, they follow you, opportunities flow toward you because you've become a magnet for progress. Clarity also helps you conserve your energy. You stop fighting battles that aren't yours. You stop saying yes to things that drain you. You start protecting your time, your mental space, your focus, because you know what it's all building toward. You begin every day with intention, and that makes all the difference. Most people wake up and check their phone, respond to the world, and let everyone else dictate their priorities. But when you're clear, you wake up with a plan. You move with purpose, and purpose has gravity. It pulls everything into alignment. So here's the truth. If your life feels stuck, scattered, or exhausting, the problem isn't your potential, it's your clarity. And the good news, clarity is a decision. You can sit down right now, block out the noise, and ask yourself, what do I really want? Not someday, not maybe, but in the next year, in the next 90 days, in the next 24 hours. Get specific. Define the target, write it down. Speak it out loud, and then align your actions with it, ruthlessly, consistently, daily. Clarity is not something you wait for. It's something you create. And once you create it, everything changes. You'll start seeing solutions you used to miss. You'll start attracting people who support your mission. You'll start taking action without hesitation. And you'll realize that success isn't something far away. It's something you step into the moment you decide exactly where you're going. You can't attract what you can't define. Get clear and get moving. Everything you do, how you wake up, how you treat people, how you show up under pressure, stems from one thing, the identity you hold deep inside. You can read every book on success, watch every video on confidence, and learn all the right strategies, but if your internal identity doesn't match the level of life you're trying to build, you'll always fall short. Identity is the silent force that shapes every choice you make. Not your intentions, not your motivation, your identity. Who you believe you are at your core drives what you allow, what you pursue, and what you settle for. We all have this inner thermostat. If your identity is set to a certain temperature, let's say average, you can try to crank up the results in your life, but eventually you'll cool things down to match how you see yourself. You'll self-sabotage, you'll procrastinate, you'll find a reason to quit, not because you consciously want to, but because your identity can't handle operating at a higher level than it's used to. That's why people win big then lose it all, or start strong then burn out. They haven't done the inner work to raise the standard of who they are. And here's where most people go wrong. They try to change their behavior without changing their identity. They want to eat healthy, but they still see themselves as someone who always gives in. They want to build a business, but they still believe they're not a leader. They want to be confident, but they still carry the story of being shy, insecure, or not good enough. And behavior will always bow to identity. You will never consistently act in a way that contradicts the way you see yourself. You might fake it for a little while, but sooner or later, your actions will snap back to match the person you believe you are. So the key to lasting success, real, magnetic success, is not just behavior change, it's identity transformation. You have to build a new version of yourself, not by faking it, but by conditioning it. That means repeatedly showing up, acting like the person you want to become, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels unnatural, until it becomes who you are. Because identity is not fixed. It's not something you're born with and stuck with. It's a set of beliefs, patterns, and emotions that you can rewire. You decide what's true for you. And the fastest way to shift your identity is through aligned action. Every time you act differently, you send a message to your brain. This is who I am now. When you honor your word, even on the small things, you build the identity of someone who follows through. When you face discomfort instead of running from it, you build the identity of someone who's courageous. When you say no to something that no longer serves you, you're building the identity of someone with standards. And the more you stack those moments, the more unshakable your identity becomes. Not based on hype, but on evidence. The reason identity work is so powerful is because once it shifts, everything else becomes easier. You don't have to constantly push yourself to do the right thing. You just do it because it's who you are. It becomes automatic. You stop negotiating with your goals. You stop waiting for motivation. And that's where true freedom begins. Not in trying harder, but in becoming better. Think about it. Every major breakthrough in your life started when you stopped seeing yourself as the old version and started stepping into a new one. Maybe you finally said, enough. This isn't me anymore. And from that moment, everything started changing. That wasn't just a decision. It was an identity shift. And if you can do it once, you can do it again. You can do it with your health, with your mindset, with your career, with your relationships. All of it begins with how you define you. So if your results haven't changed, stop asking what you need to do differently and start asking who you need to become. Are you thinking, acting, and living like the person who already has what you want? Or are you stuck in the habits, emotions, and language of your old self? Because success is not about what you get, it's about who you grow into. And the moment you upgrade your identity, your actions will follow. And so will the results. Success isn't just about having a great plan. It's not just about reading more books, learning more strategies, or even surrounding yourself with the right people. All of those things matter, but none of them will work without one essential ingredient: emotional energy. The intensity you bring, the passion that fuels you, the emotional state you're in when you show up to do the work, that is what determines whether you push through or pull back, whether you lead or follow, whether you win or hesitate. Emotion is the ignition. It's the difference between knowing what to do and actually doing it at the level that creates impact. We've all had those moments where we knew exactly what steps to take, but we didn't take them. Not because we didn't have the knowledge, but because we didn't have the state. We were tired, we were overwhelmed, we were doubting ourselves, we were distracted. That's because behavior follows emotion. You will never execute consistently from a weak state. You can't build a strong life from a low energy mind. It's like trying to drive a sports car with no fuel. You've got the power, but no momentum. Emotion is the fuel. And when you learn how to generate it on command, you become unstoppable. Your ability to master your state, your energy, your emotions, your physiology is one of the most powerful tools you have. High achievers don't just have better routines, they have better emotional discipline. They know how to generate energy when they don't feel like it. They know how to snap out of negativity, how to shift from fear to focus, from doubt to drive, from procrastination to action. And they don't wait for the outside world to make them feel motivated. They create the motivation. They understand that momentum comes from motion. When you move your body, you change your state. When you breathe differently, speak differently, even stand differently, you start to feel different. And that emotional shift turns ordinary tasks into powerful acts of progress. Because let's be honest, success isn't just about grinding harder. That's how you burn out. Success is about finding the emotional leverage that makes discipline feel like devotion. That's when everything changes. When your reasons are big enough, when you connect to a sense of purpose, when you feel the urgency and importance of what you're building, then action becomes natural. It's no longer a chore. It's something you're pulled toward. That's momentum. But most people live emotionally flat. They wake up tired. They go through the day numbed out, reacting instead of creating, surviving instead of building. And then they wonder why their life doesn't feel inspired. It's because they're not energized. They're not emotionally engaged with their vision. And if your emotions are dull, your results will be too. The truth is, energy is a skill. It's not just something you either have or don't have. It's something you create moment by moment. And that means fueling your body with intention, protecting your sleep, moving your body, breathing deeply, staying hydrated. All of that physical stuff matters. But beyond that, it's the emotional habits you build that make the biggest difference. What do you focus on every day? What questions do you ask yourself? Are you constantly focused on what's missing, what's wrong, or who hurt you? Or are you focused on what you're building, what you're grateful for, and who you're becoming? Because where focus goes, energy flows. Every single morning you have a choice. You can let the day push you around, or you can take control of your state. Before you open your phone, before you react to the world, you can prime your mind, raise your energy, and step into the emotion that will carry you through. That one decision will change the quality of your actions and therefore the quality of your results. The people who attract success, the ones who walk into a room and change the temperature, who speak and make people listen, who move through challenges without crumbling. They don't do that by accident. They've trained themselves emotionally. They've learned that the secret to sustaining effort, focus, and leadership is not willpower. It's emotional mastery. You can't lead others until you can lead yourself. And you can't lead yourself without mastering your energy and emotion. So if you're feeling stuck, ask yourself, how are you showing up emotionally? What kind of energy are you bringing to your work, your goals, your relationships? Are you waiting to feel good before you give your best? Or are you committed to giving your best so you can feel good? Flip the script. Let emotion be your superpower. Let energy become the edge that separates you from the rest. Because when your energy is high, when your emotions are aligned with your purpose, momentum becomes automatic and success begins chasing you. You can have the strongest mindset, the biggest dreams, and the clearest vision, but if your environment is out of alignment with your goals, it will quietly sabotage everything you're trying to build. Environment is more than just your physical surroundings. It's the people you spend time with, the content you consume, the conversations you entertain, the habits you repeat, the energy you allow into your space. It all counts. It all has weight. And whether you realize it or not, it's either pulling you forward or holding you back. Most people underestimate just how much their environment shapes their standards. You start picking up the language, the energy, the expectations of the people around you. If you're surrounded by people who settle, complain, or play small, eventually, even unconsciously, you start doing the same. Not because you're weak, but because human beings adapt. It's built into us. We conform to the room we're in. And if the room is small, so are the results. So the real question isn't just what do you want? The real question is, does your environment support that outcome? Look at your life right now. Look at your morning routine. Look at your workspace. Look at your friends. Look at what's on your phone, your TV, your social media feed. Is any of it inspiring you to rise? Is it reminding you of your vision? Is it helping you stay focused, strong, and hungry? Or is it a distraction? A drain? Because your goals need more than motivation. They need an ecosystem to thrive in. A system that reinforces your discipline, fuels your drive, and keeps your standards high. You cannot expect world-class results in a low-quality environment. It doesn't work. If you plant a seed in poor soil, no matter how good the seed is, it won't grow. Not because it's not meant to grow, but because the conditions are wrong. You are that seed. You have potential, no question. But if you don't put yourself in the right surroundings, mentally, emotionally, physically, you will struggle. Not because you're not good enough, but because your roots don't have what they need. And let's talk about people, because nothing shapes your life more than your proximity. If you're around people who think big, who move fast, who speak truth, who take action, you will rise. Even when you don't feel like it, their energy will pull you forward. But if you're surrounded by negativity, fear, jealousy, excuses, you will drown in it. Energy is contagious. Beliefs are contagious. Standards are contagious. You can't play at a high level while constantly explaining your vision to people who don't believe in growth. That doesn't mean you cut everyone off. It means you become intentional. You protect your space like your life depends on it, because it does. You start choosing who gets access to your energy, to your time, to your mind. You start curating your life the way an artist curates a masterpiece, with precision, with care, with purpose. Every choice you make about your environment is either reinforcing the future you want or slowly eroding it. And your physical space matters too. Chaos on the outside creates chaos on the inside. If your environment is cluttered, dark, or distracting, your mind will reflect that. Success loves order. It loves structure. It loves clarity. Create spaces in your life that make it easier to win. Build systems that simplify your decision. Eliminate things that constantly pull your attention away. Create an environment where excellence feels normal, not exceptional. This is why high performers don't rely on willpower all day long. They design an environment that does the heavy lifting for them. They make winning the default. Their space supports their energy. Their calendar reflects their priorities. Their relationships challenge them to level up. That's not accidental. That's intentional. That's design. And you can do the same. Because here's the truth. Your environment is always working on you. Either it's shaping you into someone stronger, clearer, more focused, or it's draining you, distracting you, and slowly convincing you to shrink. Don't underestimate that. You can have the best mindset in the world, but if your environment contradicts it daily, eventually something has to give. So make sure it's not your dreams. Audit your life. Be honest. What needs to change? Who needs more distance? What habits, spaces, or systems need an upgrade? You don't need to change everything overnight. But you do need to start aligning your surroundings with your standards. Because when your environment supports your goals, success starts feeling natural. You stop forcing it, you start becoming it. And that's when everything accelerates. Because your world is no longer at war with your vision. It's finally working with you, not against you. You can visualize success all day. You can repeat affirmations in the mirror. Dream big, build the perfect vision board, and feel good doing it. But until you move, until you act, none of it matters. The universe doesn't respond to wishes, it responds to action. Action is what makes the invisible visible. It's what turns thought into form, desire into result, potential into progress. You want to attract success? You can't just think about it. You have to become someone who does something about it every single day, no matter what. This is where most people fall short. They confuse motion with movement. They read, they plan, they talk, they prepare, but they don't do. They get stuck in perfection. They wait for the perfect idea, the perfect opportunity, the perfect time. And while they're waiting, momentum dies. Clarity fades. Confidence drops. Because confidence doesn't come before action, it comes from action. You build certainty by doing, not thinking. Every time you take a bold step, you prove to yourself that you're capable. Every time you follow through, you teach your brain that your word means something. And the more you act in alignment with your vision, the more your identity shifts, the more energy you generate, the more success starts to gravitate toward you. There's something powerful that happens when you move with intention. Doors open, people notice, opportunities appear, not because you're lucky, but because action makes you visible to the right forces. The world doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards execution. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you momentum. You create it. And the faster you move, the more power you generate. It becomes magnetic. Suddenly, things start falling into place, not because it's easy, but because you're in motion. And once you're in motion, everything becomes easier to adjust. You can redirect, you can adapt, you can improve, but you can't steer a parked car. You have to understand that action is not always comfortable. In fact, the best actions rarely are. They stretch you. They force you into uncertainty. They test your courage. But those are the moments that separate the average from the extraordinary. Not the times when everything's convenient and you feel ready, but the times when you move despite not feeling ready. That's when you grow. That's when you earn trust with yourself. Because the real magic isn't in the outcome. It's in who you become by moving forward when most people would freeze. Success doesn't come from massive leaps once in a while. It comes from small, aligned, repeated actions that compound over time. The conversations you initiate, the mornings you don't hit snooze, the promises you keep, the reps you put in when no one's watching. That's what builds momentum. That's what makes you dangerous. And eventually you hit a point where the world starts responding, not because you got lucky, but because you refuse to stay still. Too many people want to feel their way into acting, when the truth is you have to act your way into feeling. You don't wait for motivation. You generate it by moving. The mind follows the body. And once you take the first step, the next one gets easier. Action dissolves fear. Action creates clarity. Action builds belief. And belief fuels the next action. That cycle is how you build an unstoppable force inside you. Ask yourself right now, what are you avoiding? What decision are you delaying? What step do you know you need to take, but you keep pushing it off? That thing is the key. That's the door. And the moment you take that step, everything begins to shift, not just outside you, but within you. Because action is how you declare to the world and to yourself that you're serious, that you're not just interested, you're committed. You don't need to know every step. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to move. And as you move, you'll learn, you'll evolve, you'll discover strength and resilience you didn't know you had. But it all starts with that first move. And once you're in motion, momentum will take over. The right people will find you. The right opportunities will appear. Because success doesn't chase people. It's drawn to energy, to hunger, to movement. So if you want to attract success, stop waiting. Stop thinking. Stop hesitating. Act. Move. Build momentum not just through what you know, but through what you do. Because in the end, it's not your potential that defines you. It's what you're willing to execute on day after day with relentless intensity. That's the real magnetism. That's how you shift from hoping for success to pulling it into your life like gravity.